Before we dive into the story, a small request, please subscribe to our channel. That would help me a lot, and you are free to change your mind anytime later. Now let's begin the story. The sun's golden rays peeked through the curtains, gently caressing my face, beckoning me to wake up. I stirred, feeling the warmth of the bed and the familiar scent of lavender, Sophia's perfume. My eyes fluttered open, and I instinctively reached out to her side, but it was empty. Frowning, I sat up and listened for any sounds from the kids' rooms or the kitchen, but the house was eerily quiet. A sense of unease crept in, and I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. No missed calls or text from Sophia. Strange. She usually left a note if she had an early client meeting. I checked the time, 8:15 a.m. The kids would be up by now, and Sophia should have been preparing their breakfast before school. With a sigh, I swung my legs off the bed and made my way downstairs, hoping to find some clue as to where my family had disappeared to. The kitchen was spotless, not a single dish in the sink or crumb on the counter.
Odd.
Sophia was always meticulous about cleaning up after breakfast. I called out their names, but the only response was the echo of my own voice bouncing off the walls. Panic started to set in, and I rushed back upstairs, checking every room, desperately hoping they were just playing a game of hide and seek. That's when I noticed it. Sophia's suitcase was missing from the closet. My heart sank as I scanned the room, looking for any sign of her presence, but it was as if she had vanished without a trace. Just then, my phone buzzed, and I fumbled to answer it, praying it was Sophia with an explanation. But it wasn't her voice on the other end. It was the school secretary, concerned that the kids hadn't shown up for class. I barely registered her words as my mind raced, trying to piece together what could have happened. Where was Sophia? Where were my children? Had they been in an accident? Kidnapped? The possibilities, each more terrifying than the last, swirled in my head like a vortex of dread. Snapping back to reality, I thanked the secretary and promised to call her back before hanging up. I needed to think clearly, to retrace Sophia's steps, to find any clue that could shed light on their whereabouts. That's when I noticed the blinking light on the home office phone, a new voicemail. With trembling fingers, I pressed play, and Sophia's voice filled the room, sending chills down my spine. "Joseph," she began, her tone flat and devoid of emotion. "By the time you hear this, I'll be long gone. I can't live this lie anymore. I'm leaving, and I'm taking the kids with me." My legs nearly gave out as the weight of her words crashed over me like a tidal wave. Leaving? Taking the kids? What was she talking about? "I never loved you, Joseph." "Not really," she continued, her voice dripping with disdain. This was all a means to an end, a way to secure my future, our future. I sank into the office chair, my body numb, my mind struggling to comprehend the betrayal unfolding before me. You were just a stepping stone, a means to an end, and now that I've found someone who can truly provide for me, someone who understands my ambitions, I don't need you anymore. The line went dead, and the silence that followed was deafening. My world had crumbled around me in a matter of minutes, and I was left grasping at the shattered pieces, trying to make sense of the unimaginable. Sophia's words echoed in my mind, each one a dagger twisting deeper into my heart. Someone else. She had found someone else? But who? And how long had this been going on? Questions swirled like a maelstrom, threatening to pull me under. I don't know how long I sat there, frozen in shock and disbelief, but eventually, the fog lifted enough for me to gather my thoughts. I needed answers. I needed to find Sophia and the kids, to confront her, to demand an explanation. With renewed determination, I sprang into action, scouring the house for any clues, any shred of evidence that could lead me to them. That's when I found it, a crumpled note tucked between the couch cushions, hastily scribbled in Sophia's handwriting. "Thomas, I've taken care of everything on my end. Joseph suspects nothing. Once the transfer is complete, we'll be free to start our new life together, just like we've always dreamed. Yours forever, S." The note slipped from my trembling fingers as the weight of her betrayal crashed over me like a tidal wave. Thomas. That was the name of the man she had left me for. A man I didn't know. A man who had wormed his way into my life, into my family, and stolen everything I held dear. Rage, white-hot and all-consuming, coursed through my veins. How could she do this? How could she so callously discard our marriage, our family, for some stranger? The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had loved with every fiber of my being, was nothing more than a lie. But amidst the fury, a cold, steely resolve took hold. I would not be broken by this. I would not let her win. If she wanted to play games, to tear apart the life we had built together, then so be it. I would fight, tooth and nail, to unravel the web of deceit she had spun. With a newfound sense of purpose, I began to formulate a plan. I would find Sophia and Thomas, confront them with the truth, and make them answer for their betrayal. And if they refused to listen, if they tried to run or hide, I would stop at nothing to bring them to justice. This was war, a battle for my family, my life, and I would emerge victorious, no matter the cost. The days that followed were a blur of anger, heartbreak, and a burning desire for justice. I scoured every inch of our home, searching for any clue that could lead me to Sophia and the kids. But it was as if they had vanished into thin air, leaving me with nothing but a trail of unanswered questions and a gaping wound in my heart. Sleep became a distant memory, replaced by hours spent poring over financial records, phone logs, and any scrap of information that could shed light on Sophia's betrayal. It was during one of these late-night sessions that I stumbled upon something. A series of unexplained wire transfers from our joint account to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. My hands trembled as I traced the money trail, each transaction like a breadcrumb leading me closer to the truth. And at the end of that trail was a name, Thomas Whitfield. With a few keystrokes, I pulled up everything I could find on this man, this stranger who had wormed his way into my family's life. Thomas Whitfield, a wealthy businessman with a reputation for skirting the law and cutting corners. His companies were a web of shell corporations and offshore accounts, a tangled mess designed to hide his true dealings. As I dug deeper, a picture began to emerge, one of fraud, embezzlement, and illegal investments. And at the center of it all was Sophia, her name linked to several of Thomas's shadier business ventures. Rage boiled within me as the pieces fell into place. This was no mere affair. It was a calculated scheme, a betrayal on a scale I could have never imagined. Sophia had not only thrown away our marriage, but she had also been complicit in Thomas's criminal activities, using our family as a cover for their illicit dealings. But even in the depths of my anger, a glimmer of hope emerged. If I could unravel the web of deceit they had spun, if I could expose their wrongdoings to the world, then perhaps I could regain some semblance of justice. Perhaps I could get my children back. With a renewed sense of purpose, I began to meticulously document every shred of evidence I could find, building a case against Thomas and Sophia that would be impossible to refute. Late nights turned into early mornings as I pored over financial records, legal documents, and any scrap of information that could help me bring them down. Months passed, and my once pristine home became a war room, the walls covered in maps, diagrams, and photographs, each one a piece of the puzzle that would ultimately lead me to them. And then, one fateful night, it all came together. A single email, buried deep in Thomas's encrypted files, contained the smoking gun I had been searching for, irrefutable proof of his illegal dealings, complete with dates, amounts, and the names of his co-conspirators. My heart raced as I read the damning words, a grim smile spreading across my face. I had them. After months of meticulous planning and tireless effort, I finally had the evidence I needed to bring their empire crumbling down. Without a moment's hesitation, I placed an anonymous call to the authorities, providing them with the information they needed to launch an investigation into Thomas's criminal activities. And then, like a ghost, I slipped back into the shadows, content to let the wheels of justice turn while I watched from the sidelines. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity. News reports flooded the airwaves, detailing the shocking allegations against Thomas Whitfield and his vast network of shell companies. Authorities raided his offices, seizing computers and financial records as the noose around his neck tightened. And through it all, Sophia remained conspicuously silent, her once confident demeanor replaced by a haunted look of fear and uncertainty. It was during this chaos that I received the call I had been waiting for. "Sophia, desperate and cornered, begging to speak with me. "Joseph," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "Please, you have to help me. Thomas is going to ruin me, drag me down with him." I could hear the fear in her words, the realization that her carefully constructed world was crumbling around her. But I felt no pity, no sympathy for the woman who had so callously torn my life apart. "Why should I help you, Sophia?" I replied, my voice cold and emotionless. "You made your bed. Now you have to lie in it." "Joseph, please," she begged. "I was wrong, so wrong. I never should have left you, never should have gotten involved with Thomas. I'll do anything. Just please help me." I couldn't help but chuckle at the irony of her words. The once proud and confident Sophia, reduced to a sniveling, desperate wreck, willing to beg for the mercy she had so cruelly denied me. "Goodbye, Sophia," I said, hanging up the phone and cutting off her pleas. In that moment, I felt a strange sense of power, of control. For too long, I had been the victim, the one left to pick up the pieces of a life shattered by betrayal. But now, the tables had turned, and I was the one holding the strings, orchestrating their downfall from the shadows. As the weeks turned into months, the evidence against Thomas and his co-conspirators mounted, each new revelation more damning than the last. And through it all, I remained a silent observer, watching as the once mighty Thomas Whitfield crumbled under the weight of his own hubris. It was during one of these court proceedings that I caught my first glimpse of Sophia in over a year. She looked utterly defeated, a pale shadow of the woman I had once loved. Gone were the designer clothes and perfectly coiffed hair, replaced by a drab sweater and a look of utter despair. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and I saw a flicker of recognition, a plea for forgiveness that went unspoken. But I turned away, my heart hardened against her pleas. She had made her choice, and now she would have to live with the consequences. As the trial wore on, it became increasingly clear that Thomas's fate was sealed. The evidence against him was overwhelming, and even his team of high-priced lawyers couldn't spin their way out of the web of lies and deceit he had woven. And then, one fateful day, the verdict was handed down guilty on all counts. Thomas Whitfield, the once untouchable businessman, was led away in handcuffs, his empire in ruins and his future uncertain. But even as Thomas's world crumbled around him, a glimmer of hope emerged for me. For it was during these proceedings that my lawyer, the one I had hired with the last of my remaining funds, presented evidence of Sophia's role in fabricating the charges that had ruined my life. Suddenly, the tables had turned once again, and it was Sophia who found herself in the crosshairs of the law, facing charges of aiding and abetting a criminal, as well as perjury and falsifying evidence. As the gravity of her situation set in, Sophia's composure crumbled, and she fell to her knees, begging the court for mercy, for a second chance. But I remained unmoved, a silent specter in the courtroom, watching as the woman who had betrayed me so deeply faced the consequences of her actions. In the end, the court saw through her pleas, and Sophia was led away in handcuffs, her fate intertwined with that of the man she had once loved. And as I watched them disappear through those courthouse doors, I felt a strange sense of closure, a weight lifted from my shoulders. The long, arduous battle was finally over, and I had emerged victorious, not through violence or hatred, but through sheer determination and an unwavering pursuit of justice. As the echoes of the courtroom doors slamming shut faded, a profound silence enveloped me. It was over. The long, twisted road of betrayal, pain, and retribution had finally reached its conclusion, and I found myself standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take next. For so long, my every waking moment had been consumed by the pursuit of justice, by the burning desire to make Sophia and Thomas pay for their transgressions. But now that the battle was won, the adrenaline that had fueled me for months began to dissipate, leaving a hollow emptiness in its wake. As I made my way out of the courthouse, the weight of everything that had transpired finally hit me. The world seemed different somehow, as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a harsh reality that I had been blind to before. The streets were filled with the familiar sights and sounds of the city, but they held no comfort for me. Every passing face, every fleeting glimpse of a happy family, only served as a reminder of what I had lost and what I had fought so hard to regain. It was in that moment that I realized the true depth of Sophia's betrayal. She hadn't just taken away my marriage, my home, or my career. She had robbed me of something far more precious, the ability to find joy in the simple things, the unbridled happiness that comes from a life untainted by deceit. As I walked, my feet carried me down a familiar path, one that I had trodden countless times before, back when life was simpler, back when the weight of the world didn't bear down upon me like a suffocating shroud. Before long, I found myself standing in front of our old house, the place that had once been a sanctuary, a haven of love and laughter. But now, it stood empty and forlorn, a hollow shell stripped of its warmth and vitality. Memories flooded my mind, unbidden, the sound of our children's laughter echoing through the halls, the aroma of Sophia's home-cooked meals wafting from the kitchen, the countless nights we had spent curled up together on the couch, our lives intertwined in a tapestry of love and devotion. Tears stung my eyes as I realized just how much I had lost, how much of myself had been sacrificed in the pursuit of vengeance. But even through the pain, a glimmer of hope emerged, a reminder that not all was lost. For in the midst of my darkest moments, when the weight of Sophia's betrayal threatened to crush me, it was the love for my children that kept me going. They were the light that guided me through the darkness, the unwavering constants in a world that had been turned upside down. And now, with the legal battles behind me and the path to their return clear, I knew that I had to focus on rebuilding the life that had been so cruelly torn apart. It wouldn't be easy, but with my children by my side, I knew that anything was possible. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity, as I navigated the complex legal process of regaining custody. But through it all, I remained steadfast, determined to provide my children with the stability and love they so desperately needed. And then, one fateful day, the call came. The court had ruled in my favor. Sophia's lies and deceit had been exposed, and the fabricated charges that had torn our family apart were no more. With tears of joy streaming down my face, I made my way to the children's temporary home, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Would they remember me? Would they still love me after all this time? But the moment I laid eyes on them, any doubts I had melted away. Their faces lit up with recognition, and they ran towards me, their small arms wrapping around me in a tight embrace that spoke volumes. In that moment, nothing else mattered. The pain, the heartache, the long road that had led us to this point. It all faded away, replaced by the overwhelming love and relief of finally being reunited with the most precious parts of my life. As I held them close, breathing in the familiar scent of their hair, I knew that true revenge wasn't about punishment or retribution. It was about reclaiming what had been stolen, about rebuilding the life that had been so cruelly ripped away. The weeks and months that followed were a whirlwind of adjustment as we navigated the challenges of piecing our family back together. There were struggles, of course. The scars of Sophia's betrayal ran deep, and it would take time for the wounds to heal. But through it all, we persevered, drawing strength from the unbreakable bond that had carried us through the darkest of times. With each passing day, the shadows of our past grew a little fainter, replaced by the warmth and love that had once been our guiding light. It was on one particularly rainy night, as we sat huddled together watching old home movies, that the universe saw fit to deliver one final twist in our story. A knock at the door, hesitant and uncertain, broke the comfortable silence we had been sharing. Exchanging a puzzled glance with my children, I made my way to the door, my heart pounding with a mixture of trepidation and curiosity. And there, standing on my doorstep, drenched and shivering, were the hollow shells of the people who had once taken everything from me, Sophia and Thomas. Sophia's once confident demeanor was gone, replaced by a haunted look of desperation and defeat. Her designer clothes were tattered and worn, her perfectly coiffed hair a tangled mess. Thomas, too, was a mere shadow of his former self, his expensive suit replaced by a threadbare jacket that did little to shield him from the relentless rain. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as we regarded each other in stunned silence. The weight of their betrayal, the pain and anguish they had caused, hung heavy in the air, a tangible reminder of the depths to which they had sunk. It was Sophia who broke the silence first, her voice barely above a whisper. "Joseph," she began, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I know we have no right to be here, no right to ask for your forgiveness. But we have nowhere else to go." Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their implications. The once powerful, the once untouchable, reduced to beggars on my doorstep, seeking shelter from the storm they had created. I felt a twinge of pity, a fleeting moment of empathy for the broken souls standing before me. But it was quickly overshadowed by the memories of their betrayal, the indelible scars they had left on my heart and the hearts of my children. Steeling myself, I met Sophia's gaze, my voice devoid of emotion. "The damage is done," I said, each word cutting through the silence like a knife. "You built your own prison, and now you must live in it." Sophia flinched as if struck, her fragile composure crumbling before my eyes. Thomas, ever the businessman, tried to interject, to plead their case, but I silenced him with a single, withering glare. "Leave," I said, my tone leaving no room for negotiation. "And don't ever come back." With that, I turned and walked back into the warmth of my home, leaving Sophia and Thomas to face the harsh reality of the world they had created. As I rejoined my children, their innocent faces alight with curiosity, I knew that I had made the right choice. True revenge wasn't about violence or hatred. It was about making them understand the depth of their betrayal, about forcing them to confront the consequences of their actions. And as the rain continued to fall outside, washing away the last remnants of their past life, I held my children close, reveling in the warmth and love that had been my true salvation. For in that moment, I realized that I had won, not through anger or retribution, but by rebuilding my life, brick by painful brick, with the love of my children as my foundation. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, that love would be my guiding light, my unwavering source of strength and resilience. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.